So there are three things that usually cause people to kind of take a step back from Star Citizen. One is the patch that we're currently in being a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit late to move on. The second is a progress wipe, which we don't see that often, but this will be, I think, the second this year. And the third is the gameplay, just in general, is growing stale. And that, again, happens with this patch being so long. So we've had one patch for 3 quarters now, or 2 quarters going on 3. And people are taking a break and waiting until 3.18 comes in. Do you...
I mean, what do we, when we talk about gameplay, can we list the gameplay that's in the game right now? Because this term tech demo is said quite a lot. And it does kind of have legs when you really think about it. So what Gameloops do we actually have right now? We've got rock mining, which is, I think, really solid.
Yeah.
You've got prospector mining, I think at the moment is in not a great place.
I think it's better than rock mining.
Really?
Just because
I'm the other way around.
Because well, in terms of stability, maybe not, but in terms of like support, you have space, you have ground versions, you have more minerals that you can mine for.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
You have like the refining, so it gives you more to do at least.
Yeah. I would say it's the other way around, because with rock mining, it's more varied, even though there's only one thing you can do. So, for example, you're talking about really location. Mm-hmm. You can do it in space, or you can do it on the planet, on the moons. With rock mining, you're flying and scouting, or whatever, you're pinging, and then you're doing low gravity flying, and then when you find something, you're landing, and you're then doing ground vehicle work. And I think that variation is what keeps it interesting for me. Mm-hmm. But when I'm in a prospector, for example, you are literally sat in that seat the whole entire time until you're cashing out at an admin office on a space station or whatever. So for me, it's not as interesting. So the variation, even though you've got more vehicles, and yes, you've got more ores that you can mine, but the majority of people will only go for Quantanium anyway.
Yeah.
The variation really is just quite cosmetic, whereas the gameplay loop itself is more varied rock mining, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you've got 3 different versions of mining, right?
Yeah.
Rock, ship, and FPS. You have mercenary work. You can take these missions to go into bunkers and clear things out, or go into caves and clear things out. You have...
They're quite buggy though, aren't they? And
they are.
The AI on them are really poor.
Yeah.
Which is what's holding them back, I think. But you're right, we've got them as Gameloops, yeah.
None of this stuff is foolproof. That's for sure. But you've also got bounty hunting then in ships.
Yeah.
You've got cargo.
Which is more like jousting, isn't it? It's like 2 horses jousting each other at the moment.
Yeah, depending on who you're fighting with, that's for sure. Unless
you Avenger one, then there's a whole art behind it. But
yes, then you can feel
for Joe Public. For Joe Public like me, it's jousting.
Yeah.
Either incredibly quick speeds or incredibly slow speeds. For me, it's jousting, because I'm terrible at the combat.
Just call me Crashing Tomato, because I will never finish a dogfight.
Okay, I will. CT.
And then there is, let's see, what else do we have? Cargo hauling and courier work.
That's good.
2 different things. Both kind of play a little bit differently. I would say cargo hauling needs a lot of help to feel like cargo hauling, though.
Jack Axton's tearing his hair out every day.
I just had
the old trade thing.
Just had a show with him,
Jack.
And he had plenty to say about it.
I bet he did.
I've been talking to him about cargo pretty consistently for like the last year, and it's so sad, like how little the conversation has changed. Even with the cargo refactor being such a big part of this year's updates, just almost completely the same.
I feel so bad for him. He loves it, but he's trying his hardest to get contact. Can you answer me a question, please?
Mm-hmm.
About cargo? Can someone explain to me what use the Hull A has? Because I got it and I've used it, and it's really fun for the first 10 minutes or so, and it looks really cool with the kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really small capacity.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
The Hull A is going to be a ship that doesn't really see its benefit until the cargo gameplay starts to build out more, until you have timers that require your ships to be loaded based on how easy they are to load until we have. Sorry.
Yeah. Carry on.
Until we have a more robust cargo system, so the economy is working in a way that like small ships will be carrying things from stations down to planets and making those sort of short range jumps. The hull A would fit into a spot where it's needed for those short range jumps that are happening a lot over and over and need to happen fast, but aren't necessarily super high value. Like you could take a hull A out instead of a Cutlass.
Is it like a glorified Argo cargo then?
Yeah, kind of. It's like a bigger version of that. It's good for getting those small trips done.
Got it. So it's a ship to ship or ship to surface.
Yeah, because the strength of the whole series obviously is that they carry their cargo on the outside. So if you make use of that and you load your ship very quickly, because you don't have to go inside of the ship to do it, you should be able to make money on, well, I guess save time and money.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know because I found it in my fleet. I gave it a fly around and I could put about 6 SCU in it or something ridiculous. I can't remember what it was now.
Was it 6?
Yeah. I 32 or something. I don't know. I might have lied. But it wasn't very much. I think I managed to put like 1 scrap metal in it or something and got it down to the surface and made a huge loss. Yeah.
It's a niche ship. And I think a lot of people are missing how many of the ships in the game are niche ships, but we'll get into that. I'm working on a video for that right now because resource management is really going to mess up a lot of people's plans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What else did we miss in terms of Gameloops? We have
exploration.
Exploration's another weird one, but I do think that I want to ask: do you consider medical, like being a medic? Do you consider that a game loop that can be reliably played?
No, it promised so much, delivered so little. Everybody was like, "Oh, I want to play as a doctor in an ambulance," and we all ended up originally used the Cutty Red as a respawner, but now we're just. I mean, what is that ship? But it's. I don't think that it's fully fleshed out. I don't think it's really truly picked up. I mean, the idea is that if you play as an ambulance driver and you go to a rescue beacon, you're probably going to get jumped on.
But my angle would be. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that was it. I think that was the entire ambulance experience in a nutshell.
What about forgetting the ambulance though, right? And just having an organization with players who always go out on missions and just being the person that can be called on as the healer in that group. Does that seem like reliable gameplay?
It seems. I mean, if you've got an org, then yes, definitely. But to the average Joe like me, jumping into an ambulance, and that's the best part of it, jumping into an ambulance with flashing lights and getting jumped on when you do a rescue beacon, which happened probably when I did it, happened 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
It kind of ruins it a little bit, and it's a real shame because there's something quite fun about doing rescue beacons. But people don't seem to, unless they've got really good loot on them that they don't want to lose. There's no real reason why they don't just go back to menu, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the moment, you can get around it.
And fixing that idea of how people play this game or approach it, I don't even know where to start, but a sort of meta forms around the game, right? People understand how to interact with each other in an MMO over time, and there's definitely a danger that we could continue forward with people in Star Citizen never considering anybody to be friendly and always being shoot on sight or don't work together. Or we could take a turn and somehow figure out how everybody can start to trust each other and better play together. I have no idea.
You're talking about role play, and so first of all, I feel like Star Citizen's a bit confused. Its identity is a bit confused. What is Star Citizen? Is it a big MMO? Is it an action game? Is it a realistic game? Because the changes on the flight movements are going away from realism and into kind of action gameplay, which you could argue is a good thing. Some people argue it's not a good thing. But it's going to cause a split, a divide.
Yeah.
It's going away from realism, going into action. So, and it's not really a true MMO right now either. So what is Star Citizen? And I think until it really truly beds itself down and gets its own identity, I think there's going to be different types of people doing different types of things in the game, and you're not going to get that kind of understanding and kind of, you know, these games like World of Warcraft, they've been around for years and they've built that culture within that game. Like people act in a certain way, and for the most part, and that takes time and it's bedded down. The culture needs to be bedded down, but even though we've been around for 10 years, and I say we, because I'm obviously part of Star Citizen Collective, like we all are, I don't think there's a proper culture. I mean, we can't even agree on whether griefing's griefing or whether it's pirating. or whether it's, we can't agree. We can't agree on what it is. You know, some people are absolutely outraged they've been PvP griefed. And, you know, other people say, well, it's part of the game. So we can't even agree on the basic fundamentals as a player base. So how can we agree what the game is? And how can we bed cultures and way of doing things within the game? It takes time, and until we lay the groundwork, you know, the foundations, which we haven't yet done because we've only got one system, we're not going to get there. But it's interesting. We're certainly saying, I think there's good strides going forward, but we're nowhere near being a complete game at this point in time,
absolutely.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely not. So you think there's still plenty of time for people to figure that sort of culture of interaction out?
I think we'll be talking about this in 2 or 3 years' time, and it wouldn't have moved forward.
I certainly hope so, because the way that people react to each other right now is so worrying. But we don't have a rating system. We don't have a law system. Like, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't help to give players much confidence when they meet someone else for the first time.